Hey, you guys, welcome back to the Arts to Hearts podcast. This is your host, Charaka. I am so excited to be back, and today I am not here only with another artist, but someone who adds another perspective to this whole canvas of this whole podcast. Like for me, this podcast is another creation, and I always think like, okay, how do I make this more meaningful? How do I add, like, how do I make this a better composition and like how we think when we're making our work. And I've always said that this podcasting community is for anyone and everyone as a women creative artist involved in the creative industry. I have the galleryist, the founder of Tark Gallery, who's based here in Mumbai, India. Tark is one of the leading contemporary artist galleries in India. Hina has built this gallery in the past 8 years, and today she really stands for something really meaningful and wonderful. Ritika Merchant, who's one of my personal favorite artists and someone you all also have loved on the podcast, she's being represented by her, and she's also talked about her in Ritika's episode. So it was truly a pleasure to have Anna. She was just so wonderful. She spoke about her journey of building a gallery with a vision of community, especially a gallery for emerging and contemporary artists, something that we all know we all need a lot more. She gave us it's such dimension and perspective to our whole conversation. We hear her point of view, her side, and it's just been such a nice conversation with her. So if you're someone who wants to know how galleries work, a gallery's mindset, her story, and so much more, I think there's a lot more in this episode that you will enjoy. So let's jump right in and listen to what Hina has to say. Yeah, come on.
Before we get into this episode, I quickly want to remind you about our current call for art. The theme for this call is Pride, and we're so happy to have Haley Torres, who's an artist based out of US, Maryland, is curating this call for art for us. She is an artist from the LGBTQ plus community, and this call for art is open for women and artists from the LGBTQ plus community. The deadline to submit is 1st of August 2022, and we look forward to see what Pride basically means to you as women, as a queer women, as someone from the LGBTQ plus community. The submission for this call for art can be around topics of gender, sexuality, identity, and how we explore these themes and how we celebrate Pride in our own identity as women, as someone from the LGBTQ plus community. We really look forward to curating this show. I think it's a very powerful theme, and we all have something really, really important to contribute to this. So yeah, if you are interested to be a part of it, you can go and join us and submit on www.artstoheartsproject.com/submit. Remember, the call for art ends on 1st of August 2022, and I always believe that it's great to submit as early as possible. It gives you an edge post all other submissions, because a curator gets to spend some more time with your work and you're just well prepared. If you have any questions, please always feel free to reach out to us at Arts to Hearts Project on Instagram, on our emails. We're always there to answer your queries. Again, we look forward to your submissions. You can submit on www.artstoheartsproject.com/submit. The deadline is 1st of August, and this open call is open for women artists and LGBTQ artists from all over the world. So yeah, let's get back into this episode now.
Hello, Hina. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much. Thank you for having me. It's so great to be on the podcast.
I am so excited. I can't even tell you, because believe me, I'm saying this because I'm not like someone who, like, with even the galleries in India, there's something so special about that I've always felt. And to finally have you on the podcast, especially after Ritika's episode, we've been doing so much to and fro, and Ritika was like, I'm telling you, if you love this, you will have such a great time with Hina. And I was like, yes, for sure. So I'm so grateful for having you here.
No, I'm
But for
so
anyone,
happy we could make it happen. Like it's been pending for a while, so I'm happy we were able to make it happen.
so for anyone who doesn't know you, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Hannah Kapadia. I've been running Tark, which is an art gallery in Bombay, for the last 8 years. The word Tark means debate, dialogue, and discussion. And the whole reason to open the gallery was that I think fine art needs to be a conversation. I don't think it's a one sided kind of thing. And I think it needs to be a discussion, a debate, an argument. That kind of opened with the intention of being a gallery that kind of grows with the times. So the idea was very much to represent artists of my own generation and try and build a collector base also of that same generation. So have collectors who support artists right from the beginning of their careers and right from the beginning of their collections. So we have a lot of first time buyers who come to the gallery who are a little worried and things like that, but we want them to feel comfortable here. We want them to feel excited about the artwork that they're looking at, and we want them also to be excited actually about the artists we work with, because what's very cool is now we're in our like second, third, fourth shows with different artists, so you can actually see the growth, and for me that's kind of the most exciting thing.
But honestly, I feel this. You've done like 8 years into it, but you've really done that. I was speaking to, again, another admirer of Ritika's work.
Yeah.
She's based out of London,
Mhm.
and she's collected her work from you before
Sure.
also.
Yeah.
I just forgot her name. Oh God. She goes by Art Curio, and she was
Yeah,
like,
of course. Yeah.
yeah. So we were. I just, oh God, it slipped my mind.
Not this one.
Oh.
No, it's now I've also forgotten. I'm thinking of another client, but I know who you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah. So we were
Yeah.
chatting yesterday, and she was like, she was coming back from London, and she was like, I have to.
Namita, no?
Namita,
Yes,
yes,
Namita
yes,
Parekh.
yes,
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
yes,
sorry.
yes, yes. And she was like, I have to go to Paris because, Ritika's work, there's another solo show.
Yeah.
And like that kind of loyalty and that kind of passion for someone else's work it's very inspiring, and it's very like I feel it's an experience in itself to hear from someone who they're going to fly down to another country just to go and see someone. And she said, like, I started buying her work for so and so years. It's getting like, I can see how expensive it has got, and it's so worth it. And even though maybe I won't be able to buy or something, or I don't know. And she was like, but even then I'm going to go, and I just want to see her show. That that is so, like, I feel like lot of your artists all have had this kind of like they've really built themselves with you.
I think I think that's also a testament to them and their work, because they work very hard. As someone who's creative, I'm sure you understand this. And like what you were saying about fashion as a business kind of really resonated with me, because, and it's a funny story. When we opened the gallery, my husband I was dating him at the time, and he came to the gallery and he's like, "Oh, you have files." And I was like, "What do you think? Like, what do you think
Yeah.
we do? You think we look at pretty pictures all day, you know?" And I was like, "No, no, it's a business." So very often for the artists that we work with, it's not the easiest thing to put themselves out there, and it's not the easiest thing for them to talk about their own work. But what I keep telling them, and what we keep telling them at the gallery, and kind of trying and pushing them to do, is to talk about their own work, because I feel nobody does it better than the artists
Yeah,
themselves.
that's so true.
And so I think it's really a testament to them and their work, and them pushing themselves into a place of somewhat discomfort where they're actually happy to engage with collectors. And also, like, ideally for me, the best thing is when an artist hits it off with one of the collectors that we found, right?
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
nothing quite like that, because then we're like, haha.
yeah. It was meant to be. Like, you feel like that
Yeah,
matchmaker.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, tell me something. Did you
Hmm.
ever think about? I know, like you've had background in the arts, like you did art.
Mhm.
Your mom was an art historian.
My mom is an art historian. Yeah. Yeah, very
Oh
much.
wow! So that's
Yeah.
how you're like.
But so that's
Tell me
how
how
I
it began.
I was basically dragged kicking and screaming very unhappily to all the museums wherever we traveled. I was not happy about it. But then eventually I realized this is something I really enjoy. I get asked a lot if I paint or if I can't. Like,
I was about to ask that.
no, I can't. I was
Never did.
sketching something for a curator, and she was like, "Thank God you didn't become an artist." You know, and I'm like, that's not my skill. So it was something that never occurred to me as a career option. And then actually, what ended up happening is I did an internship with Geeta Mehra at Sakshi Art
Yeah.
Gallery, and that's when I realized, it was like a light bulb went off, and that was one of the it was a pivotal experience because I worked with actually they were working on Jahangir Sabawala's retrospective and catalog. So I was able to spend time with him. I was able to go to his studio and like to do like like proofread,
Yeah.
the catalog with him,
Yeah.
which was wonderful for me. And that kind of made me decide that this is something I wanted.
But before that, you still had, because your mom is like an art historian.
Yeah,
You
but
still had some influences.
I was very interested in it, but I don't like, I didn't know what I could possibly do,
Do. Yeah.
right? Like,
Because
if that makes sense. Like, it
right.
was
Yeah, I
always
think.
something I cared about, but not something I wanted to do.
Yeah. Also, I think a lot of times, especially I think a lot of people who listen to this podcast come from all parts of the world,
Mhm.
especially US and everything. This I feel is very specific to India, which is a lot of times like I've seen this huge difference, especially in the West and in India. It's like art is still in India. I think it's getting better, especially post COVID. In the past couple of years, it's gotten better where people realize like they want like stories and art, like creativity in their lives.
So I think that's really a function of the education system, right?
Yeah.
Like, where if you're not forced to go to these places, you know, it's something that every Indian person will do when they're abroad. They'll check which
Yeah.
museums they need to go to. But
Yeah.
like, if you and so my mom was the person who was like, "Oh, we're in Pune, there's a museum here, we should go." It's like, all
Yeah.
right.
And
But
people would like, if that was like, how would your family even react to that? Like
wait,
your
I
other
think
uncle and aunt.
it was no, it was just me, my mom, and my dad. So it was like, okay, fine, yeah, like I guess we have to go to this, or we would beg off and do something else at the
Yeah.
same time. But it was. But so I think that's something that we tend to do elsewhere. I think it's also something. Uh, it was very interesting. There was a report. I can't remember for the life of me who's released it, but there was a report on government spending on art. And
Okay.
in the budget, there's a very small percentage which is dedicated to art, but
Art.
it's not as art. It's art and art, culture, tourism. Like, it's all in one bullet
Wow.
point. So I think a lot of that money goes to things like performance art, and not to say any of this doesn't need money,
Yeah.
but I think that we simply don't have institutional state level support for the arts,
Yeah.
especially the contemporary arts. If you're looking
Right.
at things like heritage, like you're looking at, you have ASI, which does some, wonderful work both in India and abroad. You have museums which are fairly well taken care of. But when you're looking at contemporary art galleries or contemporary art or contemporary artists, there's very little state institutional support in that sense, which I
Yeah.
think is a
Yeah.
big problem. And that's where I think this like lack of curiosity comes from. Because when you go to the CSMVS in Bombay, there are
Yeah.
lines of school children at that museum, right? So they are all
Yeah.
being dragged and kicking and
Right.
screaming. But I feel like if we had a contemporary art museum,
Yeah. Right.
maybe it
I think
would be.
even that, I feel like let's say I grew up in a smaller town, and I feel like I've seen this contrast where people who've also grown in smaller spaces but probably not in India and some other parts of the world. I think it's also like even till today art feels like a far-fetched or like more aristocratic kind of activity,
Yeah.
versus like I've seen even today friends and family, like they would, even if they're not, they nobody, I think being collective is still a very advanced phenomena for a lot of people, but just splurging on something or buying something for the sake of you love someone's work and art.
Yeah.
And like I see that still, like it's coming back, like it's coming now, especially in the contemporary, like our generations, like people, we a lot of times a lot of people don't buy, especially early buyers don't think it as an investment, but they think a lot
They just buy
everybody's
it because they love it. Yeah.
love it. Yeah.
And I think actually what you're saying about how people don't, it was very funny because in the second COVID wave, whatever, Maharashtra put out a list of like occupations that were essential so you could get a car
Oh yes,
pass,
I saw that.
right? We were not, and then someone, and like my cousin was a lawyer, my husband, was able to get a pass, etc., etc. So someone's like, well, who's not essential at this point? I was like,
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
fact that
Even artists, there was a newspaper clipping where they mentioned artists also, like
artist is the
non-essential job.
least essential, which is
Essential. Yeah. Oh my
horrible
God.
and very
So
sad, very, very sad. But it's something that I think kind of gets the shit end of the stick just because it does.
yeah. Yeah.
It's a
Yeah. I think
billion
that's
dollar industry. Like there's so much scope for growth and potential
but I
in
feel
that.
like even I think that today is like it's really such a good time to be an artist, especially as a woman also, I feel like.
I think there's a lot more opportunities for women now
Yeah.
than there were before, and I was gonna say this. I think it's actually reflected in our roster where I think we have
Huh.
more
Yeah.
women than men
Women than men.
at the gallery at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about did you before taking this this whole splurge into starting an art gallery business,
Mm.
did you have like did you even know how this would work? Did you have like anything? Because honestly I feel like people say you're in like even today when people think you're an artist, I don't know what they imagine. Like they think
Oh,
at the
people
girl bed
people
like
still don't understand.
yeah,
I know people who don't understand what I do, and I think that's fine.
yeah.
But I think before I opened the gallery, I'd worked at several places. The reason to open
Okay.
my own gallery without working at another gallery was simply because I don't think anyone gave me a job.
Yeah.
Because it was 2004 13 14, the market
Yeah.
was in the dumps, like it was just not very exciting. I got my first three jobs actually. One was I worked on the Kalagoda festival with Brinda Miller.
Okay. Yeah.
I worked, this is after college and internships and all of that. I worked with Ranjit Hoskote and Nancy Adajania on
Okay.
their show, which was called No Parsi is an Island, which was at the
Okay.
NGMA. And I was also given the opportunity to be a teaching assistant for Kaiwan Mehta at ISDI Parsons in Bombay when it had just opened.
Wow.
So I think those three experiences kind of were formative, but also happened kind of in parallel to the gallery opening up. So
Yeah.
it was a little bit of everything.
Amazing. So when you started Tark, I know when I read, like I was just going through, especially not only just going through about what you've said so far, but also I think what I see as a consumer, as someone who's also constantly receiving your work,
Yeah.
I feel like for some reason, I couldn't pinpoint this before I read about a little bit about your
Mhm.
the way you were putting this out, but I always felt Tark in a very different agency and energy with a lot of Indian art galleries, typical art galleries. It always felt slightly like different. And as let's say, as a contemporary, as an emerging, I still felt like I always gravitated towards that for some reason. And then when I was going through and I read like how you started that with the vision of like having a community, like how community was such an essential part for you, and I really resonate with that because that's how I started. Like it still feels like center of my universe.
Yeah.
Can you
So
talk about
actually,
that?
yeah, I love the community we've created actually, and what's so cool, and like this is so weird, but basically what happened was and again this is a little personal, but I was pregnant just before the pandemic.
Okay.
And I went on maternity leave and then the pandemic hit. So I feel like I hadn't met anyone for like 2 months more than everyone else had not met anyone. And then what kind of happened was when we came back, when we started doing events again, we had people in the gallery that I had never seen
No.
before, never spoken to, and they were like, I love your work. And I'm like, but Like, how do
Comes
you know, right? Like, what is going on? And it's this surreal thing of we've managed to continue to build our community online, which is
yeah,
fantastic. Like, I didn't think it was possible. Like,
yeah,
the biggest thing I missed in the pandemic was having events, like having people here,
yeah,
talking to people, things like that. But we managed somehow, and it's continued. Like, it's so
yeah.
strange. But community is really the core of everything we do, whether it's
I
our
agree.
collector community or it's the artist community, whatever it is, we really enjoy it.
I think what you're saying is so like when I was talking to Ritika and she had of course amazing things, but what I also felt very and we received like with Ritika's episode, I don't know 100 messages I must have received and like
Mhm.
how people like and also I feel like I always cheer for Ritika like in between the pandemic, like with so many international places where I have seen like because of this whole fluidity of the pandemic and cross culture and like this whole this this boundary was blurred for all of us and like it was so nice and I would see like Kritika's work in another place where I'd never seen before and I was like oh my god this was like it was like those moments where you feel like yes
Yeah.
another woman another artist from India where you can see it in a place that you love and
Mhm.
so even when she was saying this in our conversation that how the relationship that she's had with you how she's also grown with you and it wasn't just about what as a gallery it's like I never found the synergy that honestly I would typically hear from a lot of people with you know
Yeah, I think it boils down to good business practices, which is something that I'm quite particular about. I think it again, I kind of credit that to the fact that I had no ambition to become an
a
artist ever.
gallery.
No,
Yeah,
an artist. Like,
not
I
an
was not like, it's not like my brain doesn't work like that. I'm very interested in the management and the logistics and those kind of things. Like, it sounds very
yeah.
boring, but like,
No,
like
that's
I gone to an art fair recently and I met someone who's making boxes, and I cannot explain to you. I got so excited about this guy who's making it's like, tell me more. All I want to know about is your boxes. I don't care like what's your name, who gives a shit,
yeah.
what are these boxes, please tell me. Like so
Yeah.
uh, that's kind of who I am.
Yeah, and she was also really like she was like like you have these artist weekends and
Yeah,
like technical part like and I think these are
yeah,
so essential because I've
yeah.
typically seen I think two different kinds of like even with the time like with social media this whole evolution that's happening right now a lot of artists who want like I think we've come to a point that we understand that as artists we just don't need the skill but also to learn other parts of our practices our businesses like you know
Yeah, you got to do it, man.
so yeah
There was a student show at Somaya
I
University. Sorry, can you hear me?
I missed you. Huh. Yeah, I
Sorry.
can hear you now.
There was a student show at Somaya University in Bombay
Yeah.
a few months ago. And they were like, what's your advice? And I was like, please just learn how to make an invoice, because if you don't know how to make an invoice, you can't get paid. Just make an invoice, please, please. Like, that's the only thing.
Yeah, that's true. And she was like, how we
Everyone
do.
hates
Yeah.
doing it, but you got to do it.
I yeah. And that is I think again, when I was speaking like before the call, when
Hmm.
I was in fashion school, I was like this typical, like I was always creative and like I always thought that okay, like I would even when I had the desire where I figured कि अच्छा अब यही करना है, this is what I want to do. I figured like my idea of being a creative or an artist or designer was always like when I started my first business, which was fashion, I thought I would always like because I came from a design school. So design school, we go through this cycle of 6 months design, pre-collection, post-collection design process, filter process, mood boarding, vision boarding. Like I did all of that, and I can't tell you how happy I was.
Right.
6 months later, the moment we launched, and I was like, I'm the designer, and then I would like like everything would sell on its own. Like I
Yeah.
think that is honestly, I think that's what I where I was, and
Yeah.
it was such a hard time because I figured like, oh, now I need to think how I need to market this. Now how I didn't have the money to wait and like and people telling me, okay, your price points are not good or this is not good, your market is not right, and like I was like. in the past a lot of years as a creative, especially as an independent creative,
Yeah.
you have to realize that what you create is one part, but how you put it out there, how you make a value out of it is another game that we eventually need to learn, no
Yeah.
matter even if you're working with a galleryist.
I don't like making invoices either, but I have to do it.
Yeah.
It's,
Nobody,
again, it's the
everybody
only
hates
way I get paid.
paid. We all love getting paid, but we all hate making
Yeah.
invoices. Yes.
Tell me, sorry.
My question is like, I as a gallerist, what is your viewpoint with? I'll tell you a lot of insight. Like we're also doing this a secret project, and we're asking people that what are the most absurd advices that you've received so far as an artist. I
Right.
will tell you. Like I'll send you once we have that compilation because you'll
Please. I
you'll.
laugh
I
so
mean.
much. It'll be the best.
So I'll tell you mine. Like someone
Mhm.
advised me just when I was going into the arts that you don't have to be like you can't be so proactive because I came from a design like a business and design thing. I'm still very well informed of a lot of things, and
Mhm.
I'm passionate about. Like it's not like this or that. I've always understood in my journey ki okay, if I want to do this, I need to learn the hard part even if I don't enjoy it. So
Right.
someone told me, oh, you if you want to be successful as an artist, you need to stay in the studio and let someone else do the rest of the work.
So I, I don't think I kind of get where it's coming from, but I don't think that's a sustainable way to live because that only works if you have a gallerist who works for you 100% of the time. And I think I'm a good gallerist, but I don't work for any one artist 100% of the time. Right? It's
Yeah,
something that's like I will work for you and pay attention and all of those things, but there are some things which you just need to be in control of, and you're so much better off if you're in control of them. We're all people, right? We're all fallible at the end of the day, because God forbid your gallerist decides one day, no, fuck it, I can't deal with this shit
deal
anymore,
with
and shuts the gallery. What will you do?
it. Yeah. And
Right?
I also think like it's also like a this position of a artist seeing gallerist as like top or down. I feel like it's as artists, I feel like I love collaboration. I love like
Yeah.
in I love collaboration. This podcast is such like every time I get to
Yeah.
speak with someone and every episode is a collaboration with someone. Like we as artists or creatives or business entrepreneurs, we all have the chance to collaborate with each other and we all need each other. And I think
Yeah.
it becomes easier even as a business where if artists are more like if we have our shit together,
Yeah.
it makes your life easier also.
Exactly. And I also think it makes your own life easier, right?
Easier.
If you have your shit together, you know what you're doing,
Yeah.
right? You know, right? I can't screw you over. I can't steal your.
Yeah.
So many stories you hear. Oh, उसने मेरा काम वापस नहीं दिया. उसने 10
Yeah.
महीना के लिए रखा और फिर तोड़ के वापस भी. Like you
Yeah.
hear stories on stories on stories. And the thing is, and this happened to me very early on, actually, in the gallery. There was an artist who had come through someone and had just left their work here and gone. And my accountant just couldn't believe it. He was like, what do you mean she just left? What is the paperwork? How can you just keep the artwork like this? Like that was the thing. And so then a few months later, we are trying to contact, we couldn't get in touch, this, that. And then
Oh goodness.
finally that lady got in touch with us and she was like, I want my works back. I was like, please take them. We've been trying to give them back to you for so long.
Oh wow.
And so it's something that kind of, I don't want to take your work and be responsible for it
Good
if
for
I
some.
don't know that you are also, like,
Yeah.
and I know, and we're both accountable for this work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think if you're clear about some things from the very beginning, it makes life much easier.
Yeah. Absolutely. What has been the hardest thing for you in these past 8 years as working as I think not only as a gallerist, I wouldn't say, I think working as a woman in the arts
So
and then in India.
for me, actually, what's the hardest is the balance, and I think that's changed a lot after I had a child, where
Okay.
just balancing everything is very difficult. Uh,
Yeah.
because as we were talking about before, there are certain expectations
That
that kind of are there and you just have to deal with
yeah.
them. So I think for me, that's been the hardest bit. But apart from that, nothing. Like it's been great. Like every difficult piece has been overcome and you learn a lesson and you move on, right? Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's what it is.
I love that.
Yeah.
Another thing I feel like I always wanted to ask you is
Mm.
like, you, like we all know, especially the Indian art system, and even we see beyond India, it's still a very small industry. It's
Correct.
very niche. Everybody knows everybody. Like it comes from a lot of like connections and all of that. When
Right.
you created Tark, um, there was still a lot of leading galleries and like you've created a space for yourself, uh,
Yes.
for your for your artists, and really like not only created, like really made a mark, like really made a mark, and I think like build that connection with within the arts. um when did you feel like, I want to ask you, did you ever feel as an outsider? um
A little bit in the beginning, very honestly, but I think now I'm friends with everyone who I thought was treating me
yeah,
as an outsider. So now I'm friends with everyone. And I understand now that little bit of skepticism comes with each new place. As you kind of do
yeah,
this longer and longer, I understand and appreciate that skepticism because, like, I was having a conversation with a colleague the other day, and I was like, does this keep happening where like these new people keep asking you different ways that they think they can make money? And I'm like, does this keep happening? Like, is this constant? And she was like, yeah, it keeps happening. Just be ready for it. So I get it. Like now I get the skepticism.
yeah.
I think maybe for a very short amount of time I felt like an outsider, but after that, not at all. Like everyone's been very welcoming and friendly.
And then how does it feel today? And what is your vision with like the place that you've made for yourself with that?
So now,
Um,
so I want to keep growing. I think what I've done well is create this community, which is a very local kind of community. So I want to keep building on that, I think.
okay.
Simultaneously, I want to make sure my artists get the international exposure that they deserve. So we're working on that
Yes.
as well. And I think those are the two things that I'm like focused on just now.
Okay. Another thing that I wanted to ask was how Tark is focused on emerging and contemporary artists. And I'm sure you get this question a lot, but I
Hmm.
just feel like a lot of people who are listening to this episode, again, this ratio of galleries versus artists, representation, shows, and stuff like that. It's still a like the ratio is always, it's still a huge disbalance. The number
Hmm.
of representations we have versus the artists
We
we
don't
have.
have enough galleries. We have too many
Yeah.
artists. We don't have enough galleries.
And social media has changed a lot of things, and it's brought work and
Yeah.
employment and sustainability for a lot of people. That's amazing. How you have or you do look out for new talent?
We're at a point where we work with 21 artists now.
Oh
Um,
wow,
and if I need to work with more artists, I need to hire more people.
people. Yeah,
I don't have place to seat more people in the gallery at the moment. So we're
yeah.
actually not actively looking for newer artists, but we will always look at what you send us and reply to you, whether it's a yes or a no, or like, let's take this forward kind of thing.
But what do you look like as gallery? What is like?
For me, the practice is most important. Like, why do you make what you make and how do you make it? And how are those
Okay,
two things connected, right?
okay, yeah.
What does why have to do with how, essentially?
That absolutely makes
Yeah.
sense. A lot of artists also struggle with the idea that it's like a sometimes, especially I think everything is really hard in the beginning for everybody, no matter
Yeah.
your artist.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you need to move forward, you need a connection to have a connection. You need to do like you somehow we all break that cycle in very innovative different ways.
Right.
A lot of artists struggle with this idea ki, how I for them to go to, let's say, to reach someone with a body of work, they want to show some kind of credibility, but lack of opportunities and stuff like that. Like how does someone move forward, and especially an emerging artist who wants to show their work and like work with galleries or even someone in different capacities? What is your advice to them?
One is get to know the gallery because, like, the last thing, like, there are artists who make work that won't fit in my gallery's program, right? Like,
Yeah.
we have a very specific aesthetic or like
Yeah.
a specific kind of vibe of all the 20 artists we work with, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Check, get to know the galleries, figure out, do you like this person? Like, do you like me? I'm quite obnoxious sometimes, right? Like, do you want to work with me? Maybe not, right? Like, go meet people, go find out, know properly which gallery you're writing to. We get so many emails that are CC'd to 10 galleries. Dear sir
Oh
slash
God.
madam, please have a look at my work. And I'm like, I understand that everyone comes from a different place, but please understand that your work is not for all galleries and this is not like a shot in the dark. Please do your research, figure out. I understand that you're coming from, I don't care who I work with, I just want a gallery, but you're doing yourself a disservice. Find out which gallery you want, right? Who
Yeah.
works for you? Will I be able to do work for you? Or am I like the crazy lady with a 2-year-old and like not enough place for more staff and I won't be able to pay attention to you, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like understand,
Absolutely.
like try and figure out what you're signing up for when you write to a gallery, is
Yeah.
what I would.
I think this is such an essential point, and I think we've been doing so much. Like, there's so much discussion within the community and
Yeah.
artists also. Like, and we've all been like, we've also hosted so many workshops, and I hate like. I think again, this is one important part of the education system that actually needs to be taught. Like telling
Yeah.
people how to reach out. Like also, I feel like respecting someone else's boundary and being kind. Like I hate it a lot of times when we even at Art Starts we receive so many emails every day and inboxes, and like they'll be like, I want to do this, tell me. And I'm like, I feel like a hi, hello, I want to do like
There's a person on the other side of it, right? Like we also have people show up here with artwork and they're like, will you look at it now? And I'm like, no, actually, it's again, it kind of boils down to the fact that this is a business. We're not all
yeah,
just like
yeah,
sitting here in a very leisurely manner. I set up appointments to speak to my artists. I'm like, hey, do you have time for a call today?
yeah,
Set it up, right? Like it's something
yeah,
that's so small. It's such a small thing to just reach out and say, hi, I would like to show you my work. Here's a PDF of some work. Can I show it to you? Would you like to visit my studio? The chance that I
yeah,
would reply or read that email with more attention than another one.
yes,
That's just
yeah.
like, dear sir slash madam, please, here is my book.
You said something that really brought another question for me was, I understand what it means, the aesthetic as an artist. Okay? I
Right.
also, because I've been in branding and everything, I still understand as like as a business and all of that. I've always been curious of how like when you started, and especially when you're saying you're not a creative, so even that's even more interesting to me now,
Yeah.
because picking up a rooster, having an aesthetic, that curation, like the you just said, like having a style as a gallery, like how does that boil down? Is it how did you navigate? How has that come out? Did you always knew, like did you always know, okay, this is your, or it's just you, or it's like a team? Like how has that evolved?
I'm the benevolent dictator. It's always kind of my choice. At the end of the, you can show me stuff that you like, and
Yeah,
we'll consider it. I think the aesthetic kind of developed where it was like, oh, I know this will be interesting to me, and now it's kind of become much more about the practice and much less about what it looks like, right? Because if you look at Sogra's work from 2014, it looks very different from the work that she's making now, but
yeah,
it all somehow still fits. And I remember, and I'll tell you because basically we had done this India Art Fair booth. I think it was the second time we did India Art Fair, and it
okay,
was Ritika, Sobya, and Sogra, and the whole thing
okay,
was very muted and very kind of like not very loud. Like it was a very serene kind of space that we had created. And then I was like, oh shit, I don't know what Sogra's work looks like till like very close to the time of the fair. I was like, shit, if she makes something orange, I'm screwed, because it's just not going to work. I'll have to put it on
yeah,
the outside wall. And somehow the work that came was this beautiful blue and pink landscape, and it just made so much sense with everything
that's
around it. So I think it also boils down to trusting your artist and trusting your gut that they will read the moment and create work accordingly, right?
yeah,
Like, and that's why that practice is so important,
right,
so
yeah.
that's what I
That's
think.
very interesting for me to hear, because I think it's always interesting for me to hear from someone who doesn't associate themselves as a creative. Like my partner and I, like my biggest identity is like I associate as a creator. Like I
Right.
only know one thing, and he's like runs a tech business, and I'm part of the creative of the business.
Yeah.
So like he's like a complete, like he associates with non-creative, as non-creative it can be as an
Right.
identity. And I keep thinking and I keep looking at him, the way he's as an organization. It's also a process of creation, like,
So there
and
are, I think there are processes that require creativity,
yes, yes, yes.
which is different from actually being a creator of
Creative.
something, right? Like, I
Yeah,
don't, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like the guy
But
who's
I think
making the boxes, I'm so excited by it. I'm like, what box? Like,
this
that's
is your
for
language
me,
of
that's
creativity.
creative.
Yes,
Yeah, that's creative for
yes,
me.
yes.
Not to say that
Like
the art isn't, but
yes,
you know what I mean, right? That is
like
also
for him,
creative.
Excels excite him, and
Yeah.
like, like hiring people, or like, those bits of, like, I'm like, the moment I come down to like a lot of those parts of, like, I hate finance, like, but I have to do it. But I would literally bite my fingers, like, because it makes me anxious. It's not the language that I like to speak, but I know I have to speak.
So
So like,
there's an artist we work with, Vishwa Shroff, who gets very
yeah.
irritated with me because every time I say, no, you have to write an artist statement, she's like, do I make you draw? Do I make you draw your contract? Do I make you draw your expression of yourself? No, now you get to write it. Why should I have to write it? I've drawn it and given it to you. And I'm like, dude, I'm so sorry, but you got to do it, right? Like that's,
But I've been saying this for so long. I feel like even with the project that I just mentioned, we're doing something, and I'm like, I'm not going to do art. It's like, it's a pain. I completely understand Vishwa's emotion,
no, I
because
get
it's a
it. Like,
pain. It's
yeah,
a pain because it's like a continuous. Like, I feel like we're always, even as artists, when we're not making the work, we're still making the work. Like,
yeah.
it's still happening, and it's just not in the studio. I think a lot of the work happens outside the studio.
Mm.
Like, when you think about it, you like life and like a lot of things, especially I think for me. But like, I feel like artist statement is one of the most superficial thing one can know about an artist, I believe.
Yeah, but you have to write it, man. Like it's what
Yeah,
people, it gives people some kind of security
some
that it validates what they're thinking when they look at the work, right?
I absolutely, I will tell you about this project and share you something, because we're building an answer for this. I really want to solve this problem for myself also, because I feel like I want, even if when I love knowing artists and people, like, and
Mhm.
even as an artist, I love to talk about who I am, and it's hard when I ask questions. It's always easier, but when I have to talk about just myself,
Yeah.
it's so hard. It's so surface, and I feel like we need to do something better to give away and know about each other. That there has to be a better way. So we're definitely doing that. I'll send you something.
Please, if you figure out a better way, let me.
Okay. Okay. One last question, which is, what are you like? What is your dream with Tark? Your big dream. Where do you see yourself?
Weirdly, over the pandemic, we have somehow achieved our dream, which is to be this place, right, where people come together and talk about things and that kind of thing. So, as I said, like now the dream is just to get bigger and better and
Bigger.
kind of keep growing, essentially.
How was your experience internationally? Also, like, what was the first time you went international, and how did that feel?
So, the first
I'm sure it must
fair
be
we did
special.
abroad was Art Basel, Hong Kong,
When was that?
2018.
Okay, and how did that feel?
Surreal. It was very cool. Um,
Representing India, Southeast Asia, and like this whole.
yeah, and kind of just being this like kid who nobody had really heard about being at this fair, and I think that was very cool. Like, I think that was a lot of fun.
That's so
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
That's so nice. Okay, are you ready for the rapid fire?
Yes, I'm
You
excited.
have to be quick. One, two, three. Here we go. One thing you want to convey through your work in the arts.
I think passion would be
What's that one word that describes you the best?
particular.
You have very interesting words for yourself.
Picky.
Okay, if you could have a gallery anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Bombay, Bombay. 100%.
Your biggest source of inspiration.
So my artists actually. Yeah.
I love that. Okay, who's your favorite woman artist?
I can't choose.
One.
No.
Acha, okay, more than one.
No, no,
Any point of time, any time. Just name a few.
who's my favorite woman artist? Okay, I'll name someone art historical. Uh,
Okay.
Agnes Martin.
Ooh, I love her work. You should hear her episode on Great Women Artists,
I will.
Katie Hessels.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing.
I'll
You love
listen to
it.
it because I saw her show. Sorry, this is rapid fire, but I saw her show at the LACMA and it
Good.
was amazing.
Oh God, I have to see her work. Like,
Yeah, it's amazing.
okay, who is your go-to person when you're in trouble or in need of advice?
My mom.
Artist. It makes sense. Yeah, you have the mother, but you also have like a business who also understands the art world. Oh
Doesn't
God,
understand the business, not interested in the business.
she's like, you figure it out. I've done my share.
I've done my bit.
Okay. Okay, this is more than one word, so you're allowed.
Mm.
Can you share one moment, something that makes you like you still cherish and you feel grateful for doing the work that you do as, let's say, a gallerist, a creative entrepreneur, any whatever identity you associate with, but just being like we always have like one of those moments where we cherish and feel grateful for where we are today.
It's an older moment. It's from our second exhibition. And
Okay.
Shilpa Gupta had come into the gallery. And our second show,
Okay.
second or third show, I can't remember which one, was Zishan Akbar Latif's show where all the lights were off. Right? So I
Okay.
had a very difficult time interacting with people because the lights were all off. You couldn't see anyone.
Okay.
And then one light box had stopped working, and Shilpa had come into the gallery at this point. And I'm a duffer, so I'm more stressed about this box. And then I'm like, oh, I'm Henna. Like, how did you hear about the gallery? She's like,
Yeah.
is it a secret? And I was like, oh, shit. I guess now I should stop asking people how they heard about the gallery because now people are supposed to know. And then and so these are then very like I don't know, like Shilpa Gupta. I didn't
Yeah.
know who I
No.
and now I know her well and like I think it's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was one of those moments that was just like one of
Yeah. I think it's such a special moment always when you feel like someone you really look up to, and then how even when you feel that you're not there, but you reach a point where you
yeah.
like, that
They recognize you,
association.
feel validated, right?
Yeah.
Like you feel
Yeah. Yeah. And you also
yeah,
feel like your work, you're adding value to something. Like
exactly.
it's all making sense somewhere.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. If you were to meet younger Hina today, what advice would you give her?
To kind of keep going and do what you're doing.
Wonderful. Okay. Shout out to an artist, creative entrepreneur, anybody, any woman, okay, in the creative arts, who's currently like you're loving, especially on social media. I love this question.
So I love Charlene Wadhwana.
Yes, yes. Yes.
She's a dear friend. And I also love what Pratna Singh is doing just now, the photographer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. One last question.
Sure.
As a woman, creative entrepreneur, what's that one piece of advice that you would like to give for people who are, looking up to you, who are coming behind you? What is that you would like to share with them?
Again, trust yourself. You know what you're doing. You can.
Nobody knows better than me.
No, nobody does. Yeah.
Love that. Thank you so much. You see, you were so good.
Thank you. I'm a little
So good.
stress bunny.
Oh my God. Yeah. No, but you were so good. Tell me, firstly, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. I I know you need to go and I'll let you go. But one last thing before I let you go is
Hmm.
anyone who's listening to this episode, a lot of them will be artists.
Yes.
Most of them will be women
Yes.
from all parts of the world.
Yes.
How can they find you? A
Um,
lot of them collect art also.
Mhm.
So if you want to, and I really want to ask you this because I feel this pride into like presenting one of my favorite galleries in India on our
Thank you.
platform and telling them,
Yeah.
find these beautiful artists from them. So yeah, I want to take this moment for you. So
So you
introduce
can
yourself.
you can follow us on Instagram at Tark Mumbai. We put a lot of work into our website, so it's tark.in. You can see all our latest shows, and we've actually started uploading the whole show on the website after COVID. Um, You can reach us at info@tark.in if you have any questions or anything you want to know about the gallery. I promise you there are 2 people who check that email every day, so it will get answered. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much. I really
Thank
look
you.
forward to speaking to you again, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you like this episode, I really want you to leave us a review. So you can go on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, wherever you listen to this podcast. Just share what you think about it. If you like this episode, if you like what we do, just a review would help us grow this and make this reach to a wider audience, and all of that. If you like this episode, please don't forget to share it on social media. Share it with a friend that you like, someone who would be interested in it. And I will see you in the next episode soon. Bye-bye.